Welcome. Thank you for being here tonight in this quiet space created just for you. There's nothing you need to do and nowhere you need to be except right here in this moment of peace. Let's begin by finding a comfortable position, allowing your body to feel heavy and supported by the surface beneath you. Take a slow, deep breath in, filling your lungs with calm air, and as you exhale, release all the tension of the day, letting it drift away like a forgotten cloud. One more time, a slow breath in and a long, gentle breath out, feeling your body sink a little deeper into comfort, into stillness. Our story tonight is a gentle one, and it begins as all good evenings do, with the fading of the light and the arrival of a quiet peace. Let your mind drift with me now as we travel to a beautiful place on a perfect summer evening. We are in the Hamptons, that stretch of land where grand homes meet the endless sea. The sun has just completed its long journey across the sky and has dipped below the horizon, leaving behind a breathtaking farewell. The sky is not dark, not yet. It is painted in the softest, most delicate shades imaginable. Hues of gentle rose and dusty lavender blend into a warm, golden glow right at the edge of the world. It is a sight that asks for nothing but to be quietly witnessed. A soft, cool breeze drifts in from the Atlantic Ocean. It has traveled a long way to be here, and it whispers through the tall, manicured hedges and rustles the leaves of ancient oak trees. This breeze carries the clean, salty scent of the sea, a fragrance that speaks of vastness and of peace. It mingles with the sweet perfume of night-blooming jasmine and the classic, gentle scent of roses from the nearby gardens. Imagine yourself here, feeling that soft breeze on your skin, cool and refreshing, a gentle reminder to let go. Tonight, on one of the grandest estates, a party is underway, but it is a party of quiet elegance. A charity gala held on a sprawling lawn that slopes gently down towards the distant dark water. There is no loud music here, no shouting, no jarring sounds at all. Instead, the air is filled with a low, gentle murmur, the sound of hundreds of quiet conversations blending together into a single, soothing hum. It's a sound you don't even have to listen to, you can just let it be, a part of the evening's soft symphony. In the background, from a hidden corner of the terrace, a lone cellist plays a slow, simple melody. The notes are deep and resonant, and they seem to hang in the air for a moment before melting into the night. Golden light glows from dozens of paper lanterns strung between the branches of the trees. They look like soft, captive moons swaying gently in the breeze. Their light is warm and forgiving, casting long, soft shadows on the grass, creating pockets of quiet intimacy amidst the gentle gathering. Among the many guests, our story finds two sisters, Elizabeth, whom her family calls Liz, and her older sister, Jane. They are not part of the noisy center of the party. Instead, they have found a quieter spot near a stone balustrade that overlooks a rose garden. Jane, the elder sister, has a soul as gentle as this evening. Her heart is kind, and she sees the best in everything and everyone. She holds a glass of sparkling water and watches the tiny bubbles rise, a small, simple pleasure. A soft, contented smile rests on her lips. She is simply happy to be here, surrounded by such calm beauty. The soft folds of her simple, elegant dress stirred gently in the breeze. Liz stands beside her, thoughtful and observant. Her mind is quiet, but her eyes are always watching, always learning. She finds a peaceful joy in observing the world around her, trying to understand the quiet stories that people tell, not with their words, but with their posture, their expressions, the way they hold themselves in the world. She leans against the cool stone of the balustrade, feeling its solid, steady presence, and she simply watches, letting the scenes of the party drift past her eyes like a slow-moving river. Not far away, two friends arrive, making their way through the soft light. They are different in many ways, yet they share a deep and easy bond. The first is Charles Bingley. He carries with him an aura of warmth and genuine kindness. His smile is not a performance, it is an easy, natural light that seems to emanate from within. It reaches his eyes, which are full of good humor. He moves through the crowd with an unhurried grace, greeting people with a nod and a soft word. He seems to be made of the same gentle energy as the evening itself. His companion and friend is William Darcy. He is taller than Charles and much quieter. Where Charles engages with the world, William seems to observe it from a calm, protected distance. He is a point of stillness in the gentle motion of the party. His presence is reserved, almost formidable, not because of any anger or intensity, but because of its profound quiet. His dark suit is impeccably tailored, but he wears it with an ease that suggests he is not thinking about it at all. His expression is thoughtful, serious, as his gaze sweeps slowly across the lawn, taking everything in, processing it, and filing it away. It is not long before Charles Bingley's kind and searching eyes find Jane Baker. Standing there in the soft lantern light, her gentle smile seems to be a beacon of peace in the quiet crowd. He makes his way over to the sisters, his steps easy and unhurried. When he speaks, his voice is as warm as his smile. He introduces himself and then Mr. Darcy, who offers a simple, formal nod. The conversation that begins between Charles and Jane is a remarkable thing. It is as effortless and as natural as breathing. There are no awkward pauses, no searching for words. It flows between them like a gentle, meandering stream, finding its own way without any need for guidance. We do not need to hear their words. We can simply observe the peace between them. The way Jane looks down with a shy smile, and the way Charles listens with his full attention, as if her quiet words are the most important thing in the world. It is a meeting of two kind and gentle spirits, a quiet connection being woven in the soft summer air. Liz watches them for a time, a genuine happiness for her sister blooming in her heart. Seeing that Jane is so content and so well cared for, Liz decides to take a slow walk, a quiet exploration of the beautiful gardens that surround the great house. She murmurs a soft goodbye and steps away from the terrace onto the cool, dew-kissed grass. The murmur of the party fades a little behind her, replaced by the even quieter sounds of the night, the distant rhythmic shushing of the ocean waves, the soft chirp of a lone cricket. She follows a winding stone path, her steps slow and measured. She trails her fingers along the waxy leaves of a magnolia tree, feeling their smooth, cool texture. The path leads her to a small, hidden fountain, where water trickles gently from a stone basin into a calm pool below. The sound is so peaceful, so repetitive, a perfect rhythm for a quiet mind. The evening continued its slow, graceful rhythm. The moon, a perfect silver crescent, rose high in the velvet sky, and the stars, which had been shy at first, now emerged in their thousands, scattered like diamond dust across the vast dark canvas. Eventually, the party began to thin. The gentle murmur of conversation softened into quiet goodbyes. The notes of the lone cello faded into the night. Liz and her sister Jane found their way back to their family, their car pulling away from the grand estate with a soft crunch of gravel on the driveway. The journey home was quiet. The road was dark, winding through tall trees, whose leaves whispered in the night air. Liz rested her head against the cool glass of the window, watching the stars pass by. She thought of Jane and the easy, gentle happiness she had found in her conversation with Mr. Bingley, and a soft, genuine smile touched her lips. Then she thought of Mr. Darcy and his quiet, dismissive words, and the smile faded, replaced by that same cool certainty. It did not trouble her. It was simply a fact. The days that followed the gala fell into a familiar, soothing rhythm. The grand excitement of the Hamptons receded, replaced by the quiet, comfortable pace of life in their small Virginia town of Longbourn. Life here was measured by the chiming of the town clock, the slow drift of clouds across the sky, and the gentle changing of the light from morning to evening. It was a life of simple, peaceful routines, a morning walk with a cup of tea, the quiet hours of writing in the afternoon, and the comfortable silence of a comfortable family home in the evening. It was into this peaceful rhythm that a new presence arrived. His name was George Wickham. He was an officer in a regiment that was temporarily stationed in the area, and his arrival was not a loud or dramatic event. He simply began to appear in the town square, at the local coffee shop, at community gatherings, and he was, undeniably, charming. His charm was not loud or boisterous. It was a gentle, easy warmth that seemed to radiate from him. He had a ready smile and a voice that was pleasant and steady and kind. He had a way of listening that made you feel as if you were the only person in the world. Liz first met him during one of her afternoon walks by the slow-moving river that bordered the town. He was sitting on a bench, simply watching the water flow by. He greeted her with that easy smile, and they fell into a conversation that felt as natural and unhurried as the river itself. He spoke of his travels, of the books he had read, of his hopes for a simple, quiet life. And Liz, who was often so reserved with new people, found herself speaking freely, sharing her own thoughts, her own quiet observations about the world. There was an effortlessness to him that put her completely at ease. In the days that followed, their paths crossed again and again, each meeting as pleasant and easy as the last. One late afternoon, as the sun began its slow descent, casting a long golden glow over everything, Liz and Wickham found themselves walking together along that same familiar path by the river. The air was warm and still. The only sounds were the gentle chirping of crickets in the tall grass and the soft sound of their footsteps on the dusty path. Wickham fell silent for a moment, his pleasant expression clouding over with a subtle, quiet sadness. "Is everything all right?" Liz asked softly, her voice barely disturbing the peace of the afternoon.
He sighed, a long, slow breath, and looked out at the water. "Forgive me," he said, his voice now lower, more somber. "It is just being here, in this peaceful place. It reminds me of all that I have lost." Liz waited patiently, allowing him the silence he seemed to need. Not pushing, not prying, just offering a quiet, supportive presence. "I believe you know Mr. Darcy," he said finally, his gaze still fixed on the horizon. "Yes," Liz replied simply. "I have met him." "Then perhaps you can understand," Wickham continued, his voice laced with a gentle melancholy. "Mr. Darcy's father was my godfather. He was the kindest, most generous man I have ever known. He treated me like a second son, and in his will he left me a comfortable living, a position at his church, a quiet life of study. It was all I ever wanted." He paused and shook his head slowly, as if reliving a deep and painful memory. Liz listened, her heart filling with a quiet sympathy. The sun sank lower, and the golden light grew deeper. The shadows of the trees stretched long and thin across the path. But the father's goodness did not pass to the son. When the old Mr. Darcy passed away, his son, William, inherited everything. He harbored a dislike for me, a jealousy, I suppose, from our childhood, and he refused to honor his father's last wish. He gave the living, the position that was meant for me, to another man, and left me with nothing. The story was told so simply, so calmly, without any overt anger or bitterness, only a deep and profound sadness. It settled in the quiet air between them. Liz looked at this charming, kind man and pictured the other man, the cold, proud Mr. Darcy at the party. The man who could be so proud could certainly be so cruel. And Wickham's story, this well-told lie, fit perfectly into the space that Darcy's pride had already carved out in her mind. It did not feel like a shock. It felt like a confirmation. It felt like the quiet final click of a puzzle piece falling into its rightful place. Her first impression had been right all along. The man who could be so proud could certainly be so cruel. "I'm so sorry," Liz said softly, and she truly was. She felt a deep and quiet sorrow for the injustice this good man had suffered. They walked on in a comfortable silence, the story now resting between them, a shared and unfortunate truth. In Liz's mind, the contrast was now complete, a simple, clear picture. Mr. Wickham was warm, charming, and wronged. Mr. Darcy was cold, proud, and cruel. It was a simple fact, and her mind felt calm and settled in its certainty. The weeks that followed held a quiet, somber stillness. The peaceful rhythm of Longbourn continued, but a note of melancholy had crept in. Mr. Bingley, the warm and smiling friend of Mr. Darcy, suddenly left the area and returned to New York, leaving behind only a brief, formal note delivered by a courier. There was no explanation, no personal goodbye. This sudden departure left Liz's gentle sister, Jane, with a quiet, unspoken heartbreak. She never complained, she never shed a tear in front of her family, but the soft light in her eyes seemed to have dimmed. A gentle sadness now lived where her easy happiness once resided. Liz watched her sister, and her heart ached with a quiet, protective anger. In her mind, there was no doubt as to the cause of this silent sorrow. It was the influence of Mr. Darcy, the proud man who did not deem her family worthy, had surely persuaded his friend to abandon a connection he thought beneath him. This belief did not come as a shock or a surprise. It simply settled on top of all the other evidence, a final heavy stone that cemented the foundation of her opinion. Mr. Darcy was a man who controlled and dismantled the happiness of others without a second thought.
Let us now join our story on a quiet, rainy afternoon sometime later. Imagine the sound of gentle rain tapping softly against the window panes of the Baker home. It is a steady, soothing rhythm, a sound that seems to wash the world clean. Each droplet that traces a path down the glass blurs the view of the world outside, leaving this space inside feel more calm, more safe, more still. Inside the house, all is quiet. Mrs. Baker and the younger sisters are out for the afternoon, and Jane is resting in her room, leaving Liz alone in the living room with a book resting unread in her lap. She is not reading. She is simply listening to the soft drumming of the rain and watching the garden outside turn a deeper, richer shade of green under the gentle gray light. The air is cool and still. It is a perfect afternoon for quiet contemplation, a moment of peace suspended in time. Suddenly, the sound of the doorbell chimes through the house, a soft, unexpected note in the quiet symphony of the rain. She is surprised, for they were not expecting any visitors. She places her book aside and moves to the door, her steps quiet on the old wooden floor. When she opens it, she is even more surprised to see Mr. Darcy standing on the porch, alone, a tall, dark silhouette against the gray, rainy backdrop. His clothes are damp from the rain, and he looks as though he has traveled a long way. He asks if she is well, his voice low and formal, and she invites him inside out of the rain. They sit in the living room, a great distance between them. The only sounds are the gentle ticking of the grandfather clock in the hall and the steady, soft rhythm of the rain outside. The silence stretches on. It is not a comfortable silence. It is filled with an unspoken weight, an unseen tension that makes the quiet air feel heavy. Liz waits patiently, assuming he has a message to deliver from his sister or some other formal business to discuss. He seems to be struggling. His usual calm, reserved composure is gone, replaced by a quiet agitation that is visible in the tense set of his shoulders and the restless energy in his eyes. He gets up and paces the room once, his footsteps quiet on the rug, before returning to his seat, as if he cannot find a comfortable place to be. And then he begins to speak. His voice is low, but it is no longer calm. It is filled with a deep, restrained emotion. He says, "In vain I have struggled. It will not do. My feelings will not be repressed. You must allow me to tell you how ardently I admire and love you." The words fall into the quiet room so unexpected, so shocking, that for a moment Liz cannot process them. She can only stare at him, her mind a perfect blank, the ticking of the clock and the drumming of the rain fading into a distant hum. Love. He had said love. But his expression is not one of soft affection. It is tense, almost pained, as if he's confessing a great and terrible weakness, not a beautiful joy. He continues to speak, and his words begin to explain the turmoil on his face. He speaks of his deep and powerful love for her, but he also speaks of all the reasons why he believes he should not feel it. He speaks of her family's social standing, their lack of powerful connections. He speaks with a kind of detached coldness of what he calls the impropriety of her mother and younger sisters. He describes all the obstacles that his pride, his family's expectations, and his high position in the world have placed in the way of his affection. He is in essence telling her all the ways she is unworthy of him,
while at the same time confessing that he cannot help but love her. He is proposing marriage. It is a proposal of marriage, but it feels more like an accusation. It is a list of her faults that his love has somehow, inexplicably, managed to overcome. It is the cruelest kindness. As she listens, the initial shock in Liz's mind begins to fade. It is replaced by a slow, gathering storm of her own, but her storm is quiet. A cool fire of indignation that burns steadily behind her eyes. Her hands rest calmly in her lap, but her heart feels as if it has been turned to ice. When he is finally finished, he looks at her, his expression confident, as if he has no doubt that she will accept his reluctant but powerful offer. He expects an answer. The silence returns to the room, but now it is a heavy, charged silence, thick with unspoken feelings. The only sound is the gentle, indifferent rain tapping, tapping, tapping against the glass. Liz takes a slow, steadying breath, and when she speaks, her voice is as quiet and as controlled as his was. In cases like this, she begins softly, it is, I believe, the established mode to express a sense of obligation for the sentiments avowed, but I cannot. I have never desired your good opinion, and you have certainly bestowed it unwillingly. She sees a flicker of shock in his eyes. He did not expect this resistance. He truly believed his offer, however insulting, was too great to refuse. She continues, her voice still quiet, but now with an edge of unshakable steel. From the very beginning, from the first moment I met you, your arrogance, your conceit, and your selfish disdain for the feelings of others made me realize that you were the last man in the world whom I could ever be prevailed on to marry. She lets the words hang in the air between them, clear and final. She tells him of the quiet heartbreak he caused her sister Jane by interfering in her affairs and separating her from his friend, a man she truly cared for. And then she tells him of the story she heard from Mr. Wickham, a story of a promised future, a stolen inheritance, and a life ruined by Mr. Darcy's jealousy and cruelty. She lays out all her reasons, one by one, like smooth, hard stones, each one landing with a quiet finality in the space between them. As she speaks, his expression changes. The confidence drains from his face, replaced first by shock, then by a flash of anger, and finally by a pale, quiet sorrow. He does not interrupt her, he simply listens. When she is done, the room falls silent once more. He stands up, his face pale and composed, but his eyes full of a deep and wounded pride. He says, "You have spoken quite enough, madam. Be assured that I am far from demanding your apology for what you have said. I am ashamed of what I have felt for you. Forgive me for having taken up so much of your time." And with a final formal bow, he turns and leaves the room.
The soft, final click of the front door echoes in the quiet house, and then silence. A silence that is heavier than before, filled with the memory of words spoken and feelings revealed. Liz does not move. She sits perfectly still in the armchair, her hands resting calmly in her lap. Outside, the rain continues its gentle, steady rhythm against the glass, a soothing, indifferent sound that pays no mind to the quiet storm that has just passed through this room. Her mind is a turbulent sea beneath a calm surface. She replays the conversation again and again. His words and her words. She feels a sense of agitated justification, a quiet, firm belief that she was right to say what she said, that her judgment was sound, her reasons solid, like stones. She had spoken the truth as she knew it. She sits there for a long time, as the gray afternoon light begins to fade, and the room fills with soft evening shadows. The rain slows, from a steady drumming to a soft, intermittent tapping, and finally it stops altogether. The only sound now is the slow, steady ticking of the clock in the hall. The next morning arrives with a sky that has been washed clean. It is a cool, crisp morning, with a pale, gentle sunlight that filters through the leaves, making everything look fresh and new. Liz feels a need to walk, to move, to feel the cool air and clear her head of the heavy thoughts from the day before. She leaves the quiet house and walks towards the familiar path by the river, the path where she so often walked with Mr. Wickham. The air is fresh and smells of damp earth and new leaves. It is a peaceful morning, and the path is quiet. As she rounds a gentle bend, she sees a figure up ahead, standing still as if waiting. As she draws closer, she sees that it is Mr. Darcy. Her first instinct is to turn, to walk away, but he has already seen her. He does not move towards her, he simply waits. His expression is not angry or demanding. It is calm and serious, and perhaps a little tired. He walks a few steps toward her and stops, maintaining a respectful distance. "I have been walking here for some time," he says, his voice low and even, "in the hope of meeting you. Will you do me the honor of reading this letter?" He does not hold out a physical letter. Instead, he gestures subtly with his phone. "I have just sent it to you," he explains. "It contains a few things, explanations, that I felt I owed you after our conversation yesterday." And that is all he says. He does not wait for a reply. He does not ask for forgiveness. He simply gives her a slight, formal nod, turns, and walks away, his tall figure disappearing down the path, leaving Liz alone in the quiet morning light. She feels her phone vibrate in her pocket. For a moment, she hesitates, but her curiosity and a deeper unspoken need to understand is stronger than her reluctance. She finds a quiet, secluded bench, nestled under the branches of a large willow tree. The soft, dappled sunlight warms the wooden seat. She takes a slow breath and opens the email. It is very long. His words are as formal and as carefully chosen as ever, but they carry a different weight today. A weight of sincerity. She begins to read. He first addresses her accusation about her sister, Jane. He explains that he did, in fact, advise his friend, Mr. Bingley, against pursuing the connection. He writes that he had observed her sister carefully at the parties, and saw in her a quiet composure, a serene calmness that he mistook for indifference. He genuinely believed that her heart was not engaged, and that he was saving his friend from the pain of an unrequited affection. He admits now that he may have judged her too hastily and caused a pain he did not intend. As Liz reads these words, a small flicker of doubt enters her mind. She thinks of her sister's quiet nature, her reluctance to show her deepest feelings to the world, and she realizes, with a small, uncomfortable pang, that Darcy's conclusion, while wrong, was not entirely baseless. Then she scrolls down to the second part of the email, the part about Mr. Wickham. The tone of the writing shifts. It becomes graver, more serious. He begins by explaining the story of his father's will. He confirms that his father did indeed leave Mr. Wickham a sum of money intended to support his study of the law. But Mr. Wickham had no intention of pursuing a life of quiet study. He soon squandered the inheritance on a life of idleness and dissipation, returning only when the money was gone to ask for more. And then the email details something far worse. Darcy writes of how the previous summer Mr. Wickham used his charm and his long history with the family to gain the trust and affection of his own younger sister Georgiana, who was only 15 at the time. He persuaded the young, impressionable girl to elope with him, not out of love, but for her vast fortune. The plan was discovered only at the last moment, saving Georgiana from a terrible fate, and leaving her with a broken heart and a deep, quiet shame. Liz's hands grow cold as she reads. The phone feels heavy in her lap. The world seems to tilt on its axis. The clear, simple picture she had held in her mind of the good man and the villain shatters into 1,000 tiny pieces. She reads the email again, and then a third time. Every sentence, every carefully chosen word carries the unmistakable ring of truth. A feeling of profound shame washes over her. A quiet, deep, and heavy shame for her own blindness, her own stubborn prejudice. She had prided herself on her ability to judge character, yet she had been so completely and utterly wrong. She had listened to one man's charming lies and had condemned the other without a fair trial. A few months pass. The initial shock fades, replaced by a quiet, lingering confusion. Liz agrees to go on a summer trip with her aunt and uncle, a gentle tour through the scenic countryside, a chance to clear her head and find a new perspective. Their journey eventually leads them to the area near the Hamptons, where Darcy's family estate, Pemberley, is located. The estate is famous for its beautiful architecture and magnificent gardens, and it is often open for public tours when the family is not in residence. Believing Mr. Darcy to be away, Liz agrees to visit. Pemberley is not what she expected. It is not a grand, intimidating palace designed to showcase wealth and power. It is a beautiful home, built of light-colored stone, that seems to rise naturally from the landscape. It is perfectly proportioned, elegant, and in complete harmony with the surrounding nature, the rolling green lawns, the ancient trees, and the peaceful river that flows nearby. It is a house built with taste and intelligence, and a deep love for beauty. As she is guided through the rooms, Liz listens to the housekeeper speak of Mr. Darcy. She speaks of him not as a proud, cold master, but as a genuine affection and respect. She calls him a kind and generous landlord, a fair employer, and the best of brothers to his younger sister. Everything she sees and everything she hears paints a picture of a man she has never met. They wander through the art gallery and then decide to take a walk through the gardens, following a path that leads down towards the river. And it is there, as they round a bend, that they see him. Mr. Darcy is walking toward them. He is alone, dressed not in a formal suit, but in simple, casual clothes. He looks relaxed and at peace. He sees them at the same moment they see him. A look of surprise crosses his face, but it is not followed by anger or awkwardness. He walks toward them, his steps calm and steady. He greets her aunt and uncle with a quiet, genuine courtesy that immediately puts them at ease. And then he turns to Liz. He does not mention the letter or their last terrible meeting. He simply asks after her family, his voice gentle,
his manners perfectly composed and kind. He is a different person here, in his own space.
The warmth of that afternoon at Pemberley lingered in Liz's mind for many days, a gentle, glowing ember in her heart. The image of Mr. Darcy, the real Mr. Darcy, was now clear. He was not the cold, arrogant man she had constructed from her own pride. He was a man of quiet strength, of deep integrity, and of a kindness that ran deeper than she could have ever imagined. As she traveled home from her trip, a profound and quiet shame settled over her. It was not a harsh or anxious feeling, but a gentle, humbling sorrow. She had been so wrong, so confident in her judgment, so blind. She had taken pride in her perception, only to find that she had seen nothing clearly at all. And alongside this shame, another feeling began to surface. A feeling that was warm and confusing and strangely hopeful. A deep and genuine admiration for the man she had so thoroughly misjudged. She returned to her family home in Longbourn with a mind that was changed and a heart that was open. The world seemed different now, softer and full of possibilities she had not seen before. But this quiet peace was not destined to last. A few days after her return, a letter arrived. It was not a gentle letter. It was a frantic, panicked message from her sister Jane, who was visiting friends in a nearby city. The news was delivered in hushed, worried tones within the quiet walls of the Baker house. Lydia, the youngest, most impulsive sister, had disappeared. She had run off with George Wickham, the charming man with the easy smile and the well-told, sorrowful story. They had left behind a trail of debt and a note that spoke vaguely of getting married, but they were nowhere to be found. A heavy silence fell over the Baker household. It was a silence filled with fear and with shame. In their world, a world of quiet reputation and social grace, this was a profound disgrace, a scandal that would tarnish the entire family. Liz felt a cold, sinking feeling in her heart. In that single moment, all the newfound hope that had bloomed at Pemberley withered and died. She knew with a quiet, heartbreaking certainty that this family disgrace would create a gulf between her and Mr. Darcy that could never be crossed. He could never associate himself with a family touched by such a scandal. She had just found him, and now she had lost him forever. The thought was a quiet, constant ache in the days of anxious waiting that followed. The family searched. They made quiet, desperate phone calls, but there was no news. The silence and the waiting were a heavy blanket over the house. And then, after 2 long, agonizing weeks, another letter arrived. This one was from an uncle, and it carried news of a resolution. Lydia and Wickham had been found. Wickham had agreed to marry Lydia in exchange for a large sum of money. His debts would be paid, and he would be given a new commission in a distant part of the country. The family's honor would be saved. Everyone was relieved, but Liz was quietly bewildered. She knew her family did not have the kind of money needed to meet such demands. Who had provided it? Her aunt, in a quiet phone call, later revealed the truth. She explained that the uncle had not acted alone. He had received help from another gentleman, one who wished to remain anonymous. A gentleman who had traveled to the city, used his connections to locate the missing couple, and had negotiated the entire settlement himself, paying every dollar out of his own pocket. It was Mr. Darcy. The news settled in Liz's heart, not with a shock, but with a feeling of profound and overwhelming gratitude that brought quiet tears to her eyes. He had done this, all of this,
for her, to save her family from disgrace, to save her from the pain and shame of her sister's actions. There could be no other reason. In that moment, the admiration she felt for him, the respect that had been growing since she read his letter, finally blossomed into something entirely new, something deeper. It was love, a quiet, certain, and unconditional love. But she believed her chance was gone. He had paid this price, and now he would surely distance himself from them forever. A few weeks later, as a quiet autumn began to settle over the Virginia countryside, another unexpected visitor arrived at Longbourn. It was not Mr. Darcy. It was his aunt, the formidable Catherine de Bourgh. She did not come for a pleasant visit. She was a woman of immense power and influence, and she had come to deliver a warning. She sat in the family living room, her posture stiff and unyielding. She told Liz that she had heard a rumor that her nephew, Mr. Darcy, intended to propose marriage to Liz. Her voice was cold and sharp as she listed all the reasons why such a match was impossible. She spoke of Liz's family, the lack of connections, the recent disgraceful scandal. She demanded that Liz promise her that she would never accept such an offer. Liz listened patiently, her hands resting calmly in her lap. The woman before her was powerful, intimidating, and used to getting her way. But Liz was no longer the girl she had been months ago. Her spirit was settled, her mind was clear, and she would not be bullied. With a quiet, unshakable dignity, she refused to make such a promise. She told Lady Catherine that she was a gentleman's daughter and would not be dictated to. Her spirit, her quiet strength, left the older woman speechless with rage. Lady Catherine left the house in a storm of fury, convinced that Liz was a stubborn, unworthy adversary. A few days after this strange visit, Darcy himself came to Longbourn. He said he had returned to the area to see how everyone was. Liz knew the real reason. His aunt's angry report of their conversation had given him a new hope, a reason to believe that Liz's feelings for him might have changed. They went for a long, quiet walk along the familiar paths as the autumn leaves drifted gently from the trees around them. He confessed that his aunt's visit had in fact given him the courage to speak to her one last time. And then he looked at her, his expression now open and humble and full of a deep and gentle love. "My feelings and my wishes are unchanged," he said softly, "but one word from you will silence me on this subject forever." Liz, who could barely speak, past the happiness blooming in her heart, finally found her voice. She looked at him, and with a tearful, joyful smile, she accepted him. She thanked him for what he had done for her sister, for her family. He told her that he had done it only for her. They walked on and talked for hours, clearing away all the misunderstandings of the past, all the foolish pride and all the stubborn prejudice that had kept them apart for so long. They spoke with the honesty and the relief of two souls who had finally found their way home to each other. The story ends here, with a quiet understanding and a peaceful, happy beginning. Two people who saw the worst in each other finally learned to see the best, and in doing so found a love that was true and lasting. And now our story is complete. You can let the characters go, let Liz and Mr. Darcy and their newfound happiness fade gently from your mind like a beautiful dream upon waking. There is nothing more to do, nothing more to think about. Allow your body to feel heavy and warm and completely relaxed. Let your mind become as quiet and as still as the peaceful Virginia countryside at the end of a long day. Feel yourself letting go of the story, of the day, of any thoughts or worries that remain. Let them all drift away like autumn leaves on a slow-moving stream, floating farther and farther away until they are gone from sight. All that remains is the gentle rhythm of your own breathing, a soft, steady tide, pulling you deeper into comfort, deeper into peace. Let the silence hold you, let the darkness comfort you as you drift now, all the way down into a deep, restful, and wonderful sleep.